Hi, this is Patty D. Priest, and welcome to Educate Academy, brought to you by the Kentucky Academy of Technology Education, otherwise known as CATE. This is the Google Forms and Google Sheets class, and we are going to look at how to create a Google form today. We are in Google Drive, and so I'm going to go up to my blue New button and click, and I'm going to come down to More. And I'm going to come over to Google Forms. You'll notice there's a little arrow to the right. If I hover over this, I can choose either a blank form or to create a form from a template. If you don't choose either one of those and you just click on Google Forms, it is going to create a blank form. So I'm going to go ahead and click there today. And it opens up where we're going to start editing our form. My suggestion at the very beginning is to come up to the upper left and name your form. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a bunch of forms that are all named Untitled Form. It makes it hard to find the one you want. So we're going to name this one Educate, for lack of a better name. You'll notice when I click off of that it's going to say it's saving. Everything that you create is automatically saved in Google. And you'll notice up here I can move it to a specific folder or organize it. I highly recommend this. I'm not going to do it today, but when you click on it, it will take you here and show you all of your folders in Google Drive. And unlike what I do what I say and go ahead and do this. It will keep your Google Drive a whole lot more organized. I get in a hurry sometimes. I create documents like this one and I don't organize them. And then I go back and go, okay, which one did I want to delete? Because it was just part of a training. The other thing you can do is you can click on the star. This marks it as important, and in your Google Drive, if you mark it as a star, it will appear in your starred area. This is a great way to find folders and files that you work with a lot or that you need access to quickly, and that way you don't have to search all the way through Google Drive to find it. All right, you'll also notice that it put the title of my form here as the title of what it's going to appear on my form when I send it out. I can change this and it will not change the title of my form. It's just in a lot of cases, whatever you name it, a lot of times is what you're going to title it anyway. So we're going to add to this and we're going to just add the word survey. Underneath it, you'll notice it says form description. I use this to give directions to whoever is going to be filling out my form. So whatever it is that you want them to do, help them to understand it and give them the directions. You know, when you're registering for this class, there were directions on how to register. If you're giving this as a quiz, there'd be, directions on how to take the quiz. If it's a book report, there would be directions for your book report. So it gives students something, or parents, or whoever's filling this out, something that gives them some kind of idea of what they're doing and where they're going with this. All right, we're going to come down to the first question, and when I click here, it's going to highlight Untitled Question. And in most cases, the first thing you're going to want is to know their name. And so notice as I typed in name and I was done, Google changed this from a multiple choice question to a short answer question. This is something that they've been doing for the last, 4 or 5 months. It's kind of spooky sometimes that it kind of figures out where you're going with your question. And most of the time it's right. It's not always right, but most of the time. So yes, name is going to be a short answer text question, and it is required. This is a setting that you can set. I'll show you that in a few minutes. I like the fact that you can do this. It used to be for every question I had to turn that on, and it got kind of monotonous after a while. So it's nice that that is actually something that can be set, and every question is going to be required unless you turn it off, and you can do that as well. To go on to my next question, I'm going to come over here to this little menu bar, and I'm going to click the plus, and it's going to start my second question. All right, so here my first question is going to be, what is your favorite food? Basic question for a survey. Notice it chose short answer for this question, and that's not what I want. I want to actually put in multiple choice and put in some options where they have to pick from my options. Maybe I want to take that information and graph that later. And so, in a unit where we're talking about graphing, that kind of question, I'd need some specific answers in order to graph it. And so I'm going to come here and put in pizza as my first option. Notice I can add a picture, and so I could add a picture of pizza if I wanted to. I can come down here and I'm going to click Other option to add my next food. If you click Add Other, that leaves basically a blank where you put that where they can type in an actual answer. And so you can add that if you want, but I usually put it at the very end. That way they pick the options that I want. Oops, I didn't want to do that yet, but we will use it. Okay, my second option is going to be a hamburger. My third option is going to be spaghetti. Hopefully I spell it right. My fourth option is going to be, let's say, pot roast. Will be a little weird here. Then we can add other, and as we look at the form, you'll be able to see how that works. And that's all I'm going to do for that question. Notice down at the bottom, I have here where I can duplicate the question. There will be times when you want to do that. Sometimes if I put in first name as a question and last name as a question, I will duplicate the first name and then just change first to last, and then I have my second question done. There will be other times you'll use that as well, but it's not something that's relevant right now. I can throw away the question by clicking here, and then I have these three little dots, and because I'm on a multiple choice question, I can do these three different things. And depending on what it is you're doing, these three little dot menu will actually show different options. So I can shuffle my option order. I can go to a section based on an answer. We'll look at that next time. It's a little more complicated way to set up a form. And I can set up a description. I'm not going to do any of those, so I'm just going to leave it alone. On my questions, if I want to change the order of my answers, I can click on these little dots and move my answers to different areas. If I had a lot of questions and I needed to move where my question order is, I would come up here to the six dots and click and drag that way. And so I'm going to leave it where it is, but that is there. All right, let's add another question, and we're going to look at the different question types. Under multiple choice, you will notice that there are quite a few different question types. Short answer is pretty obvious. I haven't really looked at how many letters or whatever you can put into a short answer, but I would say, it's not a complete sentence. It's just like it says, a short answer. In paragraph, you can basically put all the text you want. They could write an essay under paragraph. Your students could submit a resume that way, but it would be, they'd have to copy and paste or actually just type the resume in there. It also would take the formatting out of a resume if you formatted it in Word or in Google Docs or something like that. We've looked at multiple choice. The difference between multiple choice and checkboxes is with checkboxes, they can pick more than one answer. With multiple choice, it won't allow you to pick more than one answer. Drop down, again, it's only one answer, very similar to multiple choice, but instead of listing them out on your form, it's going to be you click on the drop box little icon, and it will drop down all those choices and they pick one. File upload is fairly new, and it allows your students or your parents or whoever you're sending this to actually upload a file. And so we'll come back to this in just a minute and show you how to set that up. A linear scale is rate, let's say this item, from 1 to 10, 0 to 5, 10 to 20, whatever your numbers are, you're going to rate with, and you can tell which is the lowest and which is the highest, and so on. Not something you'd use that often in a classroom. I could use it, let's say, in an evaluation of my training, rate, my knowledge of, Google Forms on a scale of 1 to 10. And that might be in my evaluation. So a multiple choice grid is going to be where you have, let's say, different questions, and it might be rate your expertise on Google Forms. And then across the top, it might say, I don't know anything, I know a little bit, enough to get me in trouble, I'm fairly comfortable with it, I'm moderately comfortable with it. Whatever your topics or your headings for each one of those, whatever you want it to be. And then, your next line would be, well, how comfortable are you maybe with, Google Sheets, and you'd rate yourself on that. You can only pick one choice as far as going across for that one question, and it is in a grid. Whereas checkbox grid, it's very similar, except like the difference between multiple choice and checkboxes, you can choose more than one. The one way I've seen that set up is where you can actually put in, let's say you're trying to set up a meeting, and so you send out a form with a checkbox grid, and it might say, for Monday, check all the times you're available. Tuesday, check all the times you're available. And your choices may be, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whatever it is. And people can go through and check every time they're available, and then you can pull all that data together and decide what is the best time to have the meeting. Date allows you to have your students or parents or whoever put in a date, and it formats it the same way for everybody, which is really nice because when you're actually looking at the data, it makes it a lot easier to evaluate if all the dates are the same. With time, it does the same thing. So if you need to put in a time, when are you available for a conference, they can put in a time. It formats the time in the same format. As you know, with both date and time, there are multiple formats to use, and so this standardizes it. Okay? All right, let's go and look at file upload as a question type. It's a little bit different to set up. It lets you, like I said, your respondents, the people that are responding to your form, upload a file to Google Drive. Now notice that the files have to be, or they will be uploaded, let's say, to the person who owns this form. It'll be uploaded to their Google Drive. It also, the people that are uploading those files have to be signed in to a Google account. It doesn't have to be a Google Apps for Education or a G Suite account, the new name, but they do have to have a Google account. They also need to understand that when I share this form, you have to share it with people that you trust, that they're not going to upload something that's infected or whatever. So when I click continue, it's going to allow me to set up that question. And so maybe I want them to upload your video file, let's say. And so I can go down here and allow specific types. So I can turn this on and I can say I only want a video. Okay, all other files are going to be nixed as far as that's concerned. I can set the number of files that they can upload. It defaults to 1. You can also let them upload a maximum of 5 or a maximum of 10. We'll leave it at 1. You can also set the file size. You'll notice that on this you can do up to 10 gigabytes. And it says here, which I think is kind of weird, is the form can only accept up to a 1 gigabyte file. So if they're going to do 10 or 1 gigabyte, they can only do 1 file. If they're going to do 10 gigabytes, you can set it to 10 files. I haven't messed with that as far as allowing people to put in 10 files, but you can do that. I would leave it probably at the default depending on what it is that they're uploading. Okay. Again, you can make it required. Notice your little 3 dots. The only thing that you can add is a description. Okay. All right. We'll add another question. And this time we're going to use pictures, little picture icons, but we're going to use the ones here. If I can add a picture before my question. Let's say that you're doing, and I guess I could do this, click picture. Let's say we're going to add a question that's kind of like going, let's say we want to add a question that says, what's going on in this picture? So I can search. I don't know if this is going to come up. Okay, so you can go through this and pick a picture that makes sense to you. Let's say we pick this one, say select. It's going to make it pretty big. Okay, now notice that the question that I added before, it's above this, and so I can add this an image title. If I want this question to go with this, I can move it below it. Remember how I said to move that question. If you're going to shuffle your question order, I need to show you how to do images and keep your images with your questions by using sections, and we'll look at that next. If I don't put an image title, it's not going to be a big deal. Then I can put in my question, what's going on in this picture, and I might allow it to be a paragraph. And instead of, we're going to change that to paragraph. So it gives it a long answer and so on. All right, so we are going to add a video this time. So I'm going to add a section. What happens is when they get to the end of this, it will give them a link or a button to push to go to the next section. Notice you have other options. We will look at some of these other options next time. All right, so I have a section title. You don't have to put anything in there, I don't think. It's been a while since I've done this, but let's call this video. You don't have to put a description either. Now I'm going to add the video. And so I'm going to click here, and I can do a search because I know our YouTube channel. I'm just going to go there really quickly. I'm going to click select, and it's going to embed that video. So when the students are watching this or doing the form, they can actually watch this video from within the Google form, which is really nice. Okay, so I can title the video, this is Book Creator, and maybe I'm wanting them to watch this in order to create something. Maybe I want them to answer questions about it. It's up to you. Then I can add the question below it. And so this might be, whatever it is you want it to be. And because it's in the section, if I was to shuffle the order of these questions, as long as it's in a separate section and I add a section after my questions for the video, everything within the video one will stay with the video. It won't get mixed in with other questions, which I think is really nice, but it's something you have to remember. Okay? All right, the last question I'm going to show you before I show you a few other things is those of you in early childhood or early elementary, you can actually ask questions by having the answer be pictures. So you might say, again, with the what is your favorite food? We'll put snack this time. Okay, we're not going to do a short answer. We want to do a multiple choice. And next to my picture here, or my question, I am going to do a search. Notice it says the results are labeled for commercial reuse with modification. And so it's going to find things that I can use. And so I'm going to put pizza. Guess that's really not a snack, but we're going to use it anyway. And let's see, what is the best looking pizza? That looks good. That's a good elementary kind of looking picture. And so you can put the word up top. But if for kids that don't read, you can actually have them answer these questions as you read the questions, and then they can click on the picture. I'm going to add another option. We're going to put candy. Click a picture, or click on the little icon. We're going to put candy here. Notice that I can pull those pictures from other places. This has got, I'm hoping they would know what that is. I was looking for a variety of candy, but all right, we're going to do, we'll do this one. Okay, and we'll add a third option, and we're going to say cookies. Click on the picture icon. Notice I can upload from my computer. I can take a snapshot. I can find it by URL. I can go to my albums. I can find things in Google Drive. And again, I can search just because I haven't found these ahead of time. I'll just do one cookie. And so we'll add that one. And so now you have your actual little quiz, or part of a quiz, and then you can do another question with another answer. And then you can take this information and in front of the whole class, or however you want to do it, you can create a little chart of your students' information. All right, now, once I have most of it done, I may want to see what it looks like. And so I can come up here to the little eyeball and click it. It's my preview icon. And so I can see what my survey is going to look like. All right, notice I get to here. I'm going to click next. Notice it won't let me click next. It still went back to name. Why? Because it's a required question. Even in the preview mode, you have to answer your questions. We're not going to go on from there, but you get the idea of what it's going to look like. Now, you may not like the looks of it real well. It's just purple. Maybe it's not your favorite color. You can come up here to the color palette, and maybe your favorite color is blue. So you can click blue. Maybe you're even bored with that. You'd rather get something more exciting. And you've seen forms, I'm sure, like the form I sent you with a picture in it. And you're like, how did they get that in there? Well, you go to the palette and you go down to the image, and you've got all these images that Google has put in here for Google Forms. They're also the same images you can use in Classroom and some other places. So let's say I want to go to Just Kids. Maybe I'm going to choose this. And when I click Select, it's going to add part of that picture up here at the top. If you don't like it, you can go back to the palette, go back to here, and choose something else. Now, Night Out probably isn't going to be a good one for school, but maybe sports might work. And notice we've got some that are animated. Those are kind of cool. So we could choose that one. And you can pull in a GIF and have it up there. Just remember that it's only going to be a small sliver of that picture. Let me show you. If I go to here and I upload my own picture, I'm going to come down to here, upload photo. I'm going to select a photo from my computer, and I'm going to use this Kate background. This is the one I used in Google Classroom, so it's going to look familiar. Notice it is highlighting an area. I can also click and drag and make this bigger. Notice I have 3 rows of the Kate icon. Okay, just watch what happens. I click Select, and only 1 row appears. So even though you've selected 3, it's not going to do it. And so that's something you've got to be aware of. And notice it picks a color as your background that it thinks is going to go with your actual photo that you uploaded. So you've got that. All right, this puzzle piece here is for add-ons. We will talk about that next time as well. Add-ons, if you tried to register for this class and you got no's and no yeses to register for the class, that's because I used an add-on to limit the enrollment. And so we'll talk about how that works, but that's what you ran up against, okay? So it's an automatic, it counts the number of people that basically said yes, and once it hit a certain number, it cut it off. So it works pretty well. Here are your settings, so we're going to look at those. Under Settings, under General, you can collect email addresses. And if you want to send response receipts, emails, to people that respond, like they're registering, you want them to send an email or get an email that says, yes, you're registered for this class, or I don't remember exactly what it says, but I'm going to say collect email addresses. If I hover over the question, it says the respondents will receive a copy of their responses. That way they know that it was submitted. Okay, so a lot of people like to get that receipt. So you can turn that on or off. You can also restrict access to just your domain, and you can restrict access to just one response. It will require your students to log in order to restrict it to one response, because that's how they know. Okay. Respondents can also edit after submission. That works in some cases. Let's say it's a parent form and they need to go back and make changes. That's something you can turn on. You can also let them see a summary chart and text responses of what other people responded. That I've never used it, but it's something that's there. You can also set the maximum size. You can also set the maximum size of all files that are uploaded, which you should have set in your photo upload, but you've got that here as well. Notice that the form will stop collecting responses once the total size of all files, okay, so that's the total size, not just one, uploads and reaches a specific limit on that setting. Okay, so you may want to take it up to 1 terabyte if you want lots of responses. So if you're doing 10 gigabyte files, you're only going to get 10 answers with 100 gigabytes. So right there, I hadn't realized that was, if I'd read, I would have known. It says all files uploaded. All right, so we're going to cancel, or we're not going to save the changes there. We're going to go to Presentation. With here, if you click Show Progress Bar, it's going to show if it's a 5-page questionnaire, it's going to say page 1 of 5, 2 of 5, 3 of 5, and so on. You can also shuffle the question order. This is great in a classroom where kids are sitting really close to each other so they can't necessarily look and get the right answer. You can also show a link to submit another response. Now, in a quiz, you'd want to turn that off. But for example, we keep track of all the trainings we do. And so every time I do a training, I have to go back into the form and submit another response. And so we have that turned on. Under confirmation message, with teachers in the classroom, when you're giving this to students, I highly recommend that you kind of train your students to look here for what to do next. I'm finished. I've completed it. I've clicked submit. Now what? They're going to raise their hand and say, teacher, what do I do now? I'm done. Well, what you want them to do is read whatever you give them to do. So if you want them to go to a website, you can put the website in there. If you want them to read something or work on a different project, you can put your instructions there as well. Great place to keep your kids engaged and not disturbing the rest of the class. All right. The last thing here is quizzes. We're going to look at quizzes next time, but you can turn this on and make a quiz. And so we'll look at how to do that and how to set up your points and your auto response, your automatic grading and all of that next time. So I'm going to click cancel. Your other thing across the top here that we didn't look at are these 3 dots. Here you can make a copy of a form. I do this, let's say we've done registration for Educate before. So the next time I go to do it, I make a copy of a form. I get the same exact form, but it separates all the responses from before and gives me a new sheet. I can still, in the old sheet, create a new spreadsheet and link it to it and leave the old stuff there, but I prefer a clean copy. This also works if somebody created a form and they share it with you, or you're a collaborator, which is down here. Let's say you and 2 other teachers are working on something your students are going to do with a form. Once you're done, I highly recommend, if you want your students' responses to be in separate classes, that you make a copy of the form. That way, each of your groups are going to get a different copy of the form, and you are going to get responses from only your students, which makes sense. I can also throw out the form here. I need to look this one up. I don't really know what this is. What I think it is where certain parts of the form are already filled out or suggested answers are filled out. Again, I've never used it. I need to look it up. I can print my form. As I mentioned, I can add collaborators. I've not used the script editor. Some people are really good at scripting and coding. Basically, you can go in and make changes to your form that way. You can add add-ons. That's those things up here in the puzzle piece. This is where you add them. And then you can go into preferences. Preferences, this is where you can turn on or off that your questions are required. I like this. It also can set up where you can automatically collect email addresses every time. This is going to be a default setting. Or you can change a default quiz point value here. If every time you do a quiz, your questions are worth 5 points, you can set that up here. I'm just going to leave it the way it is for now. All right, so that's how you do a basic form. You will have an assignment in Google Classroom. You will do the assignment, and I have already put in there how you turn in your assignment, so follow those directions. But if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. You can put a comment in the classroom underneath the assignment. You have the rights to do that. You can also email me. My email address is pdepriest, PDEPRIEST @murraystate.edu. Either way is a perfectly acceptable way to get in contact with me. All right. Well, have a great week. If you have any questions, contact me, and I'll see you online. Looking forward to seeing what you do with your assignment.